President Trump says he's furious at Russia's continued bombardment of Ukrainian cities and is considering imposing further sanctions. Responding to questions from the media on Sunday night, Mr. Trump said successive nights of deadly airstrikes had come in the middle of talks and he was not happy. He was also critical of President Zelensky. Russia mounted its biggest, heaviest aerial bombardment of the war so far on Sunday, with at least a dozen people killed. Aruna Younger has the latest.
President Trump arriving in New Jersey last night seemed to have lost patience with the Russian president.
Yeah, I'll give you an update. I'm not happy with what Putin's doing. He's killing a lot of people, and I don't know what the hell happened to Putin. I've known him a long time, always gotten along with him, but he's sending rockets into cities and killing people, and I don't like it at all, okay? We're in the middle of talking, and he's shooting rockets into Kiev and other cities. I don't like it at all.
Despite US-led efforts to secure a ceasefire, Russia has ramped up its attacks on Ukraine. Hundreds of drones and dozens of missiles were launched on Kyiv and 30 other Ukrainian cities over the weekend, in the largest attack since the war began 3 years ago. According to Ukrainian officials, 12 people died, including 3 children from one family, killed in the northwest Zhytomyr region. Stanislav, aged 8, Tamara, 12, and Roman, 17. It's led Ukraine's President Zelensky to call for stronger condemnation from Washington. He said on social media, "Russia is dragging out this war and continues to kill every day." He continued, "This cannot be ignored. Silence of America, silence of others around the world only encourages Putin." Speaking yesterday, the US president reiterated that sanctions were still a possibility.
You've talked before about putting more sanctions on Russia. Is that something you're considering more seriously?
Absolutely. He's killing a lot of people. I don't know what's wrong with him.
There's pressure on the president to act. The US Senate is planning to approve a massive sanctions package on Moscow, which could impose 500% tariffs on Russia's allies. It has support from Republicans and Democrats. But last night, the US president also had strong words for President Zelensky, saying that he was doing his country no favours by talking the way he does. He added, "Everything out of his mouth causes problems. I don't like it, and it better stop." The worsening situation on the ground comes even as Kyiv and Moscow completed their biggest prisoner exchange since the start of the war. Ukrainian prisoners arrived home yesterday. Similar scenes in Russia. 1,000 soldiers on each side have been swapped over the past 3 days. But those scenes of joy are yet to be witnessed across Ukraine's cities, where the bombardment continues. Aruna Iyengar, BBC News.
Our correspondent James Waterhouse is in Kyiv. He told us more about the reaction to the latest comments from Donald Trump.
I think President Zelensky wanted a response, frankly, after aerial bombardments we hadn't really seen before in terms of their scale. And what's interesting is how they are intensifying, and they have intensified since Donald Trump returned to office. And yet the US president described his surprise as to how or why Vladimir Putin was launching rockets, in his words, at Ukrainian cities. What Ukraine wants is for America to follow through on its threat of further sanctions for Russia. And crucially, we heard Mr. Trump do so for a second time, but he's done it in the past, and that has not been followed up with action. It's usually followed up with continued efforts at ceasefire talks and warm language between Washington and Moscow. But President Zelensky didn't hold back over the weekend. He said American silence only encourages Russia. He said, the world can have a day off, whereas we're stuck here, still fighting this war and still having hundreds of drones and missiles land on our cities. It's been a very difficult weekend for Kyiv and dozens of other towns and cities across Ukraine. The air defences were once again going last night with air raid sirens as Russia continues to try and terrorise populations with these deliberate strategies, but also slowly, yes, but they also are advancing in the east in a war that is not going Ukraine's way.
And there had been a pledge, hadn't there, recently for tougher sanctions from European leaders against Russia. Where has that got to?
The European leaders, notably Germany's Chancellor Friedrich Merz, is saying that there are further packages down the line. They could be aimed at those in Vladimir Putin's inner circle. I mean, the European Union really has slapped a fair amount of penalties on Russia. It was once one of its biggest trading partners before the full-scale invasion. So it's difficult to see what further effect could be gained for the West in Europe, trying to add further penalties, but they are, and they will be welcomed here in Ukraine. But what Kyiv really wants is America to follow suit by targeting countries that buy Russian gas, by slapping 500% tariffs on. That was one of the proposals floating around in the US Congress, because the belief here is that Russia's war machine is not being strangled enough. It is still able to mount these airstrikes. It is still able to launch advances along the front lines. You wouldn't know it by the weather today, but with the summer conditions, that is when this time Russian forces will hope to make gains with armoured vehicles and troops moving over harder ground. But with the drone warfare we're continuing to see, these are front lines that really have become static in recent years.